Security was around for 50 years at this point, 55.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody just thought Social Security would be tax-free forever.
Yeah.
Till the day it wasn't. Until the
Mm.
day the government decided, Troy, I'm sorry, this wasn't really for you. You have too much money in our eyes. We're literally now going to make you pay tax on a tax you had to pay.
People do
Let's
not
think.
know this, Will.
I know it's scary. And guess what level they decided? They just said 24,000 a year of income is too much money. So you're saying just because I'm barely above the poverty line that I have too much money.
So now I'm going to tax your Social Security.
Yeah. The one thing I thought I could rely on.
Welcome to another edition of Wealth Strategies to Value. I'm your host, Troy Shorts, and we have a special guest with us today, all the way from Naples, Florida. Will Slepcevich is a young man that has been in the business. Well, Will, how long have you been in the business?
About 17 years licensed now. It's coming up on
Wow.
17.
17 years. Time flies. He only
You
looks like
got
he's 12, but he got a beard just for our podcast. So people can
it.
see that
Yeah.
he's actually been in the business 17 years. So today's topic, we're going to talk about taxes. And we want to really educate you guys, our listeners, our followers, about some things that you will never, ever learn in school.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, school never teaches us how wealth really works. So it's our responsibility as advisors to really do the research, dig deep. And I like to call this like a history lesson, but
Love it.
not the traditional way. But we're going to talk about the history of taxes in our country. And I'm telling you guys, you got to listen up, because you have to understand that the future can actually be repeated from the past.
Oh, yeah.
And if you
It
don't know
always
your
does.
past, right, it can come back to haunt you. So that's why I really wanted to have this meeting with Will today. And I'm so glad he took some time out of his busy schedule to spend some time with us and educate us and give us this awesome, awesome history lesson. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to my buddy, my pal, my Naples, Florida fishing buddy,
Yes, sir. Yes,
Mr.
sir.
Will Slepcevich.
Thank you, Troy. Thank you. Yeah, it's nice and sunny down here. I know you guys are a little chilly still in March, but that's all right.
Don't rub it in. It's
So,
actually raining today, Will.
yeah, well, okay. I figured it was snow. It's not too bad. It's funny. I can't believe I've been licensed 17 years. I did get licensed at 19 years old, though, so I am still pretty young. I'll take it. Started with I was being an agent's assistant actually in college, and I realized real quickly that she wasn't that good at what she was doing. So I asked her if I could get approved or get a license to start helping her with some of her people. So about a year later, I was making a little bit of money, and then they're like, "All right, well, we want you to sign on, and you don't really worry about college. Just start doing this full time." I'm like, "Nah, I got a day gig. I'm gonna stay in school and get my degree." So I did finish up, got an economics degree, and ended up jumping ship and went to a different company to truly, really start my career, not be an assistant type role.
Great.
And it's funny, when I first started, this was right before the last big market crash of 08, 09. And it's funny, these companies just tell you, they kind of train all of us the same way. So these big financial institutions, the banks, basically the government, they teach all of us to do what's in their best interest. They sometimes disguise it as your client's best interest, but it's just not true. And taxes in general, this is one of the areas where the government has almost made it so confusing and so just strenuous to most people that they don't want nothing to do with it. By the end of the year, even if you make good money, most people don't know what their marginal compared to their effective tax rate is.
Most people
And that's
don't even know
crazy.
what marginal tax rate means.
Exactly. And I speak to a lot of intelligent people, and they've just literally taken taxes off their radar. They're just like, oh, yeah, it's something I got to pay at the end of the year, whatever my CPA says. And that's another thing that scares me, because CPAs now have been like this divine, whatever the CPA says. And they're living 1 year in the past. Literally, they get the rules from the government for last year. They do whatever they can about last year. They're not looking forward. Do they care about your future? I don't know. Maybe that's a personal thing. But most CPAs are not tax experts. They're tax preparers. They truly do not
Mm.
know much about tax law. They don't know much about tax history. They just get the rules, they plug it into their program now, and
Yeah.
out spits what you owe or what you get back.
Wow.
And that's not doing taxes. That's letting the machine do it.
Yeah.
So I like to go through a tax history with people. So let me pull up my screen real quick here. Let's see if we can make this work seamlessly. Hey, did that come up all right?
Let's see. Hold on.
Okay. You guys see, it says I'm sharing, so we should be.
All right. Let me see if I see it on mine. Hold on.
Should be around there. Big old red chart showing all kinds of
Gotcha.
top
Gotcha.
tax rates listed. Okay, perfect. So we can see on this chart, I usually draw on these. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to draw too good today. We'll try. So our current tax code started in 1913. This is just the federal government. States have been taxing its residents for years and years and years. The federal government did tax us during the Civil War. It was later shot down after the war by the Supreme Court as unconstitutional.
Wait. Say that again.
Yeah, right.
What?
So President Lincoln was the first one to start a federal income tax.
Okay.
Started during Civil War.
Uh-huh.
At the end of the war, the tax was still around, but it got shot down as unconstitutional by the Supreme Court.
The
See,
Supreme
at that
Court.
time, the states still held most of the power, or they were thought to hold most of the power. Our federal government sure has evolved the last 150 years, though.
You think?
So they got rid of it for a while. 1913 rolled back around. The country wasn't doing too good, so we had a 7% tax. That was the top tax rate. We were told it was only going to be for 3 years. Then it was going away. Yeah, right. 108 years later, federal income taxes are here to stay, and I guarantee you they're never going away.
Yeah.
The government realized, hey, this works so good. Why would we let it go? We got involved in World War II right there, so we kept it around. Oops, it shot up to 73%, the top rate because of the war. Luckily, we did good in that war. We got a new president and a new tax plan. We got 7 years at 25. That's the lowest it's ever been since. You see, usually what happens is our country is every 4 years, we have a president running on their plan. Trump had the House and Senate with him when he got in, so his tax plan went right through.
Sure.
We have the same thing right now with Biden. He has the House and basically the split Senate with Kamala as the tiebreaker. It's going to go right through. Yeah. Not usually that easy. Sometimes it takes a couple of years of bargaining between the parties in the chambers to get a plan through. But almost every president changes the tax plan. So we can see after the Roaring 20s ended, oops, we hit the Depression. New president, new plan. That was FDR. He basically said, hey, let's spend as much as possible to get our country going. But of course, to do that, we're going to have to raise taxes up 3 times their current level. Guess what? All that spending didn't quite work out. Well, let's spend some more. He's still in office. He raised it again for the next 4 years. That'll fix the problem, right? Just keep throwing money at it. We then cracked into the 80s for the first time. Now, Troy, I know a lot of your viewers and listeners have heard of, people saying tax the wealthy. We need socialist type tax rates on the wealthy of 80, 90%.
Yep.
And they think that's just something totally new. They don't realize that our country has had a huge period, basically 50 years, where there wasn't a tax rate below 63 for the wealthy people, or for the high earners. I won't even call them wealthy.
Yeah, just high earners. Yeah.
Just high earners. So let's think about this going forward. I don't know how good that erased easy. So 80% here. We then go into World War II. Very crazy time for our country. So, hey, we got to raise the tax rate. We hit 88%. Now, this is one of those important years where it proves the games they play with us. So 1940-41, we had an 88% tax rate once you hit that bracket. It took $5 million, though, to hit that bracket.
Okay. So you're saying you had to earn $5 million before you paid.
You got it.
80%.
That's a lot of money today, let alone 1940-41, right?
Right.
2 years later, war's still going. They raised the tax rate to 94%, and they lowered the bracket to $200,000. So that meant when you hit 200,000 of income, 94 cents on the dollar went back to the federal government. And depending on what state you lived in, you could have potentially owed more than you were even making. Right?
Wow.
Yeah. So there's some famous quotes. If anybody of your listeners feel like digging, Ronald Reagan was a movie star during this period.
Sure.
And he said, I will only do 2 movies a year because of the taxes.
Right.
It's like, well, wait a second, what? He got $100,000 a movie. That's what he got paid. After 200 grand, he lived in California. He would have owed more than he made.
Wow.
That's why he was only doing 2 movies a year. This precipice, all this spending hit right here as the war ended. Our nation's debt was the highest, worst out of whack it's ever been. But it was the worst out of whack it's ever been compared to how much they could tax, meaning how much we were making as Americans. That debt was so out of whack, so out of control that 3 presidents left the top tax rate at 91%. Our debt today is obviously sky high as a country, but even scarier, we passed up this ratio from after the war, meaning our debt's the highest it's ever been in relation to how much they can even tax.
That spells trouble.
That spells long-term tax rates doing this. It doesn't matter if you're red, doesn't matter if you're blue.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to matter how you vote. They have to raise everybody's taxes.
Wow.
We're at 28 trillion of debt today. They're talking about a potential 3 to 4 trillion more of spending this year alone. You know, this isn't a Biden problem or a Democrat problem. It was out of control under Trump. Trump was spending more than ever. He was spending literally $1 trillion over what they were bringing in. So we've been running a bad budget for a really, really long time. Basically, right around here was the only time we've had a balanced budget in the modern day. Now, a lot of people remember Clinton balanced the budget. They thought we didn't have any debt. No, we still had trillions of debt. We just weren't going trillions of more into debt every year. That's all that meant.
Yeah.
So let's go back to the 90s. You know, the 90% tax rate here during the 50s, you know, people thought it was really hurting the economy. It was putting a drag on business, drag on everything. So they got it lowered, got it down to 70%. But then what happened? Same old story again. You know, the 60s was a very trying time in our country. Late 60s, obviously, was the civil rights movement. We then went into the gas crisis and an inflation crisis of the early 70s. We had Vietnam going on in the 60s. We're spending like crazy as a government, getting nothing back from it, just going more into debt. That sounds a lot like today.
Sure does.
So as we're spending and spending more and this market's just running out of control, well, wait a second. That steam's going to run out at some point. And it happened in the early 70s. It's known as stagflation. That's when inflation's growing so fast, the rate of growth of your money and everything else can't even keep up with it. So your inflation just eats up any growth you're having, and that was basically the whole decade of the 70s. So they spent too much in the 60s, kept on spending, thinking it was just going to help the problem, ended up exacerbating it. So by 1973, 74, the markets were 40 to 50% off their tops. The job situation in our country was absolutely horrible. You know, it's funny because the baby boomer generation had been flooding the market for some time, and there was just nowhere for them to get work anymore.
Yeah.
Then we had Nixon come in, right? He's like, well, you know what? We need to lower the tax rate. It'll really help our economy get going. He got it lowered to 50. Guess what? It didn't really help. You know, they're trying to tie something to helping the economy that doesn't really correlate. So a couple years later, Reagan got in. And what was his promise? Trickle down, right? If we lower the tax rate for everybody, it'll really, really help. You know, just lower it for the wealthy, but it'll really help middle America. It'll trickle down to everybody. So he did. He got the rate lowered and he even went us down to 2 brackets. Lowered it to 28%. You would think we would have paid less tax as a country, right, Troy?
Yeah.
Yeah. No.
Mathematically, probably not.
Say it again.
Mathematically, probably not. Right?
Yeah. You would think. But the exact opposite happened. Even though they lowered it to 28%, they brought in more than they ever had. And the reason being, nobody pays attention to their tax rates. In 1988, it went to 2 brackets. We had like 14 the year before. All of these brackets got lowered though. So now to be in that top bracket of 28%, you only had to make $29,750.
Wow.
That brought a lot of middle America into now the top tax rate. So if a whole bunch of people that weren't paying a lot just bumped up a little, that turns into a whole lot more money for our government.
So if you had a guy making 40,000, he had to pay 28% on 40,000.
On that last chunk, yeah. On that last 12,000.
Wow. Okay.
So taxes were high in the 70s and early 80s. They were very high there for a while. And then we had the Reagan lower, and everybody thought, hey, I'm going to pay less, but they still kept bringing in more money. When you go to file your taxes, nothing changed. You still give it to your CPA, and he still tells you whether you owe or get back.
Right.
But everybody ended up owing a lot more.
Yeah. Sounds
Guys,
like
this is another 1988 is a very important year. Very, very important. We call it the first of the how dare you taxes. How dare you, Troy, have an income while you're retired? We're now going to make you pay tax on your Social Security. Wait a second. Isn't that a tax on a tax?
That you've already been taxed on.
That I've already been taxed on. And isn't that why we became a country? No double taxation without representation? Yeah, but they just slid that right in. The scarier part to me, Social Security was around for 50 years at this point, 55. And everybody just thought Social Security would be tax-free forever.
Yeah.
Till the day it wasn't. Until the day the government decided, Troy, I'm sorry, this wasn't really for you. You have too much money in our eyes. We're literally now going to make you pay tax on a tax you had to pay.
People do not know this, Will.
I know, it's scary. And guess what level they decided? They just said 24,000 a year of income is too much money. So you're saying just because I'm barely above the poverty line that I have too much money.
So now I'm going to tax your Social Security.
Yeah, the one thing I thought I could rely on. Now think of that. 55 years, going to be tax-free forever till the day it wasn't. There's a lot of people that blindly put money into a Roth IRA. A lot of smart people I know that convert traditional to Roth, thinking it's going to be tax-free forever.
Yeah, yeah.
Ah, yeah, right. You know, maybe for some people it will. But for high earners or high net worth, the precedent's been set. They could literally come in and say, well, hey, you know, you still get a 1099 when you take your Roth distributions. So we're watching that. And since you took out now more than you put in, well, we're going to have it offset your Social Security. Or we're going to have it count against your modified adjusted gross income. That's known as your MAGI. Most people don't know what that is, but it's going to become really important to you when you go to retire. Because your MAGI then defines how much you pay tax on your Social Security. Finds out how much you're going to pay for your Medicare as well.
Yes.
You know, everybody thinks Medicare, oh, great, one day I'm going to retire and go on Medicare, all's good. No. Your price of your Medicare is based off your income from 2 years before. Medicare's out of money. Social Security's out of money. We know that. But now Medicare every year is going up, going up, going up. My dad got his new one in. He's paying $505 a month on top of the $140 minimum because his income's too high in the government's eyes.
It's like a tax.
Definitely. It's another tax on a tax.
Yeah. Wow.
And at the end, who wins? Not us. You know, not if we're doing our due diligence and not if we don't know these things. You know, unless you really look into this tax history, how are you going to know what's going to happen going forward?
Yeah.
You know, with spending out of control today, you know, there's been a lot of talk about Joe Biden's tax plan. We really don't know what it's going to look like. You know, he said a lot of things that have contradicted himself by saying them. So that makes it even harder. You know, he said nobody under 400,000 is going to pay a dime more in taxes.
Yes.
But then in the same breath, he said, but first thing we're going to do is repeal the Trump Tax Cuts and Jobs Act.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, if you repeal those, we instantly go back to Obama rates, which weren't that much higher, but the brackets were a lot different. And literally everyone across the board will pay more. Wow. So how is no one going to pay more if you repeal something that was saving us money? That doesn't work out. So maybe you can repeal and replace at the same time. We heard a lot of that about, the ACA. Never did actually happen, but that's another thing that scares me, saying, well, wait a second, they might just repeal, but the replace ain't going to look how they told you it's going to look. It's going to end up
Exactly.
everybody paying more in tax.
Yeah.
So sorry, I
Wow.
kind of went on a little rant there. You can tell I like taxes, huh?
Sure. Well, Will, one of the questions that I'd like to pose to you, because this is some unbelievable knowledge that, if people only knew, they wouldn't be doing the things that they're doing with their money.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I hear in my world, in my clientele, is, the people that are over 400,000 of income are going to be, responsible for all these new taxes. But what's going to happen to the guy that's not at a $400,000 income? He, for some odd reason, believes that he's not going to pay any more taxes. So I really want you to take a minute and just address that.
I'd love to.
That
I
question.
think you could almost get the audience to realize, hey, what's happened to gas prices in the last 2 months?
Through the roof.
It's up over $1 by me already. Literally $1 a gallon in 2 months more. So
Wow.
you're not saying that people under 400,000 use gas? All right. So all these people under 400K, you're paying more. It might not be your income tax that you're getting
Yes.
at the end of the year,
Yes.
but you're paying more already because of these policies. And
Wow.
it just tells you that all of our politicians lie, guys. It doesn't matter red or blue. They're all
Yes.
going to lie to you.
Yes.
It's very scary. Another
Yeah.
scary thing is, so I got a buddy, a good buddy from college. He still lives up in Orlando where we went to school. And,
Mhm.
he's worked for one of the big entertainment, whatever, Universal Studios. He's been with
Right.
them forever. They pay him pretty good and stuff, but he has his, deductions out of his paycheck higher than they should be
Mhm.
because somebody told him that was good. So
Mhm.
now he's so used to getting this tax refund, and he finally started making enough money where he wanted some help and wants to work with me. So I started helping him, and he's like, "Well, wait a second, no, I want to get my refund." I'm like, "Well, Eric, they're just giving you your money back." He's like, "No, no, 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 that's my refund. I need that because every year I get to go buy something cool or go buy on a vacation." And I'm
Mhm.
trying to tell him, "Well, hey, you can do that during the year now. We'll just switch it. It's going to be a couple $100 in your paycheck every month." "Oh, no, 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 but I don't want to give up my refund."
Mhm.
I mean, just think about that. That's how half of America is operating.
Yeah.
They really think a refund's a good thing. They don't even realize, wait a second, the government held my money at 0% interest all year. On top
Yeah.
of it, they're lying to me and telling me that inflation's basically nothing. Oh, yeah, really? Well, if you take
Mhm.
food, gas, and oil out of the consumer price index, the three things that inflate the most, of course, everything else is going to inflate.
Isn't
Very
medical expenses in that deleted from that calculation, or health insurance premiums?
Yes,
Isn't
sir.
that deleted from the calculation?
I took that out as well, the consumer price index. So yeah, their index is okay, and what's in it is barely inflating. But all the things you use the most, literally
The
food,
most
gas,
expensive stuff.
oil, energy, the things you use the most and need to survive. Well, let's not include those, right? Those shouldn't be included for real numbers. It's a
Wow.
joke.
It's a joke.
It literally is.
Wow.
The government literally has set everything up for people like me, you, CPAs, bankers, attorneys. We all have to get licensed to talk the talk we talk.
Yes.
But who sets the rules for us to get licensed?
The
The
government.
government. They're setting the rules for the game. They're setting the rules for what we need to learn and what I even need to tell John Q. Public. Do you think those rules are going to be in your best interest or the big government's, big banks, and big financial institutions' best interest?
The big guy's financial interest.
You got it.
Always.
It's
Wow.
very scary. That little Yorkie Toto was the only one smart enough to look behind the curtain.
Wow. Yeah. Well, I would say that we ripped the curtain down today.
Yeah, I like it. Expose these
uh,
guys, man. We got to get them exposed.
yeah, I mean, school will never ever teach the public this,
No,
and
it's scary. I'm an economics major. I went to one of the top economics programs in the country.
mm,
We barely talk taxes.
wow,
Barely. I mean, I took transition economics and had to write, a thesis on how a country can transition from a communist slash socialist into a slash democracy today. I did my thesis on Yugoslavia's transition into Serbia.
Wow.
And we talked about everything potential in economics world, but all these tough classes, all this crazy stuff, no taxes, barely ever mentioned.
I'll tell you, one of the lessons I learned a long time ago was very simple, and it was this: money isn't math, and math isn't money.
Yes, sir.
You've heard that before?
It's a very, very true statement.
Right? I had a client last week. I was explaining that to them, and I said, 2 + 2 = 4 in money every single time.
Yeah.
But $2 + $2 doesn't necessarily equal $4 ever.
You got it.
Right? Taxes, market risk, inflation, fees.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, someone could steal your money. Right?
You got it. And a lot of us just have paper money. I like paper 401k money. Looks good on paper. Just don't try and touch it.
Yeah.
Then you find out how much is yours. Troy, I'll set the interlude. Maybe we need to do another one of these on the government, because when it comes down to it, I like to expose truth. So the tax history and how taxes work is one of these areas. Another area I like to expose is the government and how their plans really work. In 1974, we were introduced with this thing called the IRA. Do you know what IRA stands for, Troy? I'm sure you got a couple clients with them.
Sure, absolutely.
Let me hear it.
Individual retirement account.
I hate to do that to you on your show, man, but that is not correct. The IRS never called it an account. If you Google this, go to the IRS website. It's an individual retirement arrangement.
Ooh.
Wait a second, right? Arrangement?
Yeah, you can arrange to take my money.
You got it. That's not as sexy as my account sounded. My account's mine. An arrangement. Wait a second. I didn't arrange nothing with you. Oh, yeah.
CPA never told me that.
Yeah, you did. Individual retirement arrangement. And guess what? They set up the rules to this arrangement, and they can change them at any time they want.
Wow.
I mean, think about this. So if any of your listeners have ever done a rollover and they've sent you the check, you actually got to see that check. Well, you notice that your name wasn't first.
Yeah.
Well, wait a second. Wouldn't my name be first if this was my money? You're right. It would. Or I'm right. It would. They put 3 little letters there. FBO. Most people don't even know what it means. They overlook it.
Yeah.
It means for the benefit of you.
Yeah.
But those 3 letters
for you, for the benefit
for
of
you,
you.
for the benefit of you, if they release it to you. Guys, it's scary. There's countries that have literally come in. They have retirement plans like we do in America. And the country has come in and said, well, I'm sorry, we've locked all your assets.
Yeah.
So Friday, you could have pulled it all out. Monday morning, they said, hey, your assets are locked.
Yeah.
We're using 50% of it to pay down our country's debt because the country is in trouble.
Yeah. And we're going to give you what we believe you need to survive.
Exactly. If you're in retirement age, we'll give you what you need. If not, sorry. Yeah, that's all you're getting right now.
Who defines the need? Like,
guys, exactly. Whatever they want to pay out, they defined it. Wow. Just like in 84 or 88, when the government said, well, hold on, this wasn't for you. If you have $24,000, you really don't need your Social Security. But who are you to decide what I need? Yeah. I worked busted my butt, paid my taxes, and got that. Yeah. I'll touch on one more before we go today. I hear a lot of millennials, especially, but I hear older people say it too. They said, well, I don't even count Social Security. It's not going to be there anymore. Come on. The fund's going to run out. Yes. But what president is ever going to run on saying, hey, vote for me. I'm going to axe your Social Security for everybody? Never going to happen.
No.
If you look at your statement, they stopped mailing those about 8 years ago. So every 5 years, you'll get one if you don't request it. But if you look at your statement, bottom of the first page, big paragraph that says, well, today, 77% of what is paid out every year is from current year payroll taxes.
Wow.
So the fund, we knew the fund was going to run out 30, 40 years ago. That's not news. And this whole thing with Social Security is going away. That's another fake news soundbite people just repeat. Social Security is not going anywhere. They're just going to raise our payroll tax, make it a little harder to do business, and they're going to keep on funding.
You got it. And they're going to print more money.
Yeah, they're going to print and they're going to tax.
And reduce benefits, right? Listen, I think we got a lot to talk about for our next show. So I would love to have you come back and really, let's get down into it. Let's get dirty. Let's pull the curtain back.
Have some fun.
All right. So listen, man, you were awesome today. And you know, I just appreciate you again giving us some of your time and some of your expertise. So I definitely want to have you back, and I want to, you know, expose some more stuff here, because the real purpose of this podcast is really financial literacy. We want to be able to bring the truth to the public so that they can understand that they could live a more enjoyable, a safer, and a better retirement. And there are specific strategies that we can implement that can literally change our clients' lives for the better.
Sure can.
So, you know, right now, I think we have about 2,000 families, or 2,000 clients, not families, you know, that we're working with, we have worked with. And, you know, it's just amazing because people are literally reaching their maximum potential right now because of the strategies that they've implemented over the last 20 years. So I just want to keep this train rolling, man. And I'm so glad I've been connected with you. And I definitely want to get you back on soon. All right.
I look forward to it. I enjoyed it, Troy.
Awesome, man. Awesome. So like us on Facebook, subscribe to us on YouTube, check us out. And listen, it would really mean the world to me, guys, if you leave a comment and a review on our page. So talk to you soon. Thanks, guys.